Hello, folks. How are we doing? I am Scott. That is Beau. There is Sir Saucy over there. Sir Saucy of the Crawfish Nebula. Of course, Coach Mauve Pill is here. And there's also one other individual who you might have guessed by now. And that is my fellow traveler, as it were, Aunt BB. Yay! Aunt BB's here. Yay! How you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
Good. You having a good time down here?
Yes, Tampa? I am. Yes, I
am. You're getting set and ready to go. Now, I know
trying.
That, you're getting set and ready to go, and that is your stomach growling, not
No, my stomach's not growling.
It's Beau's. So you are headed to, can you talk about it now? No?
I'm going to Nicaragua.
Okay, but you hadn't mentioned it before, so
no,
I didn't know whether you...
No.
Now, do you
want
want
a secret?
So it has been up until now. We haven't really mentioned it. So you're going to Nicaragua. Okay, so we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Since that kind of
Since
is
that's the topic
of the discussion today. But we hadn't really broached that. I hadn't asked her that question. That's why it seems so weird. I hadn't asked that question before we started filming, and so I didn't know whether or not we were gonna. If I was doxing her travel plans. There's all these trolls out there right now on the phone trying to get a fucking book a flight to Nicaragua. Have fun, motherfuckers. It's not as easy as it looks.
No.
So you've been down here a week?
Over a week.
A little more,
over
yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
Coming up on 2 weeks almost.
Yeah. And you've done the most Florida thing ever.
The mermaids.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were shut down for so long.
They should.
You were mocking them so much.
They should be shut down.
You were discouraging me from going, and then they were shut down.
And okay, I have to admit, I had fun at the things, but I cannot ignore the fact that is a disturbing message for kids.
Yeah.
When you turn 15, you got to find a sailor. And then if you're a young person and you got a problem, how do you fix it? You go upside some bitch's head. That's like disturbing.
In the Navy.
Yeah. Well, I think they meant something a little different with that, but that's okay. It's kind of close. Anyway, so we are so happy to have Aunt BB, and I say we. I'm talking about me and the voices, and of course
Beau,
and
the kittens,
and the cats.
Yeah.
We're very happy to have Aunt BB here.
They're getting used to me being around. Yeah.
And you went to Busch Gardens thus far.
Yeah, I've been to Busch Gardens.
And anything else so far? Nothing else so far, except for chauffeuring me around with my busted ass car.
Basically, yeah. I've been an Uber driver, unpaid Uber volunteer.
Right. It's a Uber charity. Sister of the Wheels. That's you. There's only one too. It's not sister. It's sister of the Wheels.
I am the sole member of that order.
Speaking of which, we're going to talk about Nicaragua today. And we're going to specifically talk about a piece of news that came out recently that Aunt BB brought to my attention, and that was someone was talking about WikiLeaks thing that popped up relating to, and that was from 2009, 2010.
But just published.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But the article was just published because they were talking about it in reference to a bit of news that happened, and we'll just jump right into this. A bit of news that happened the other day, last week, I think it was. This is July 9th, and this is from NBC, and this is basically the Sisters of Charity supposedly being kicked out of Nicaragua, along with some say 200 NGOs, some say 400 NGOs. I've actually found one place, an individual that says 800 NGOs, and I believe it's someone talking in this interview right here. And somehow or another, a link that Aunt BB found was sent, tied in some bullshit from WikiLeaks. To bring up something from 2009, 2010 let me get rid of that personal discussion between us, and to explain why the missionaries de la Caridad, or the Sisters of Charity, Mother Teresa's order, were kicked out of Nicaragua. Now, if you would like to explain these two links and these two different stories and how they were brought to your attention and what they mean, the floor is yours.
Well, the link I was sent, it was so the opposition press in Nicaragua, which are the U.S. puppets, their media propaganda had published an old WikiLeaks cable saying that Daniel Ortega was crazy because he thinks these nuns are trying, or it didn't name this order, but it had to have been. He thinks they're trying to assassinate him. He's crazy. Mm-hmm. So this is an old publication of WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks published a lot of cables about Nicaragua, and is all to smear Daniel Ortega and the Sandinistas.
Right.
So
one of the things was this. The other thing was drug trafficking, supposedly.
Yeah, it was financed by drug money. Yeah.
Right.
And that's what they try to pin on all of these leftist governments. Venezuela.
Right.
The Venezuelan government, Cubans, that they're all drug traffickers.
And that the guy in Bolsonaro keeps going, and talking to Russia about fuel, then they're probably going to say he's trafficking drugs as well pretty soon.
Yeah, something. They always... Yeah, there's a lot of bullshit that's put out. WikiLeaks, the WikiLeaks cult, they claim that WikiLeaks has never published anything that was not true.
It was not proven to be.
Yeah.
It was proven to be untrue.
That's what they claim. And it's just...
Let's take a second real quick because this does factor in, bringing up the old WikiLeaks.
They were State Department cables,
Right. Bringing up that, and also bringing up, to go along with this, his stepdaughter, who
that's another story.
Had another NGO that was also kicked out of Nicaragua for funding issues. And then she ran around and tried to say he, during the Me Too movement thing, she jumped up and said, he raped me as well.
So you will have elements in the Sandinista circle or that they sell out.
Yeah.
There is the MRS. They were originally part of the Sandinista movement and the revolution, but then, and they tended to come from like upper class.
Kind of
and
like,
they sold out.
I don't know, Ben Norton and
so they're
Max
like,
Blumenthal.
Yeah, they're fake left. They're fake left, so they sold out. So.
Kind of like, isn't there like an influx of Black Lives Matter fucking destabilization guys running down there now too?
Yeah, tied to Max Blumenthal. Mm-hmm. Max Blumenthal's network is down there. Ben Norton.
You told me about one other person who was down there. What's her name? Who was she? You mentioned somebody else while we were talking about this.
I don't know if it had to do with Daniel Ellsberg's daughter.
Daniel Ellsberg's
and his
daughter.
grandson.
Noam Chomsky's daughter.
Noam Chomsky's daughter. See, it's very interesting. So, yeah, they go down there. They've been down there since the 80s, I think, is when they started going in there. So as soon as the Sandinistas came to power,
they start laying the fucking groundwork.
And who else went down to Nicaragua? Tucker Carlson a couple of times. He went down there. CIA Tucker. Yeah.
So let's talk about, just briefly before we move forward. And I believe this is important because this is the Sisters of Charity, which was founded by, it was like an NGO, it is an NGO founded by Mother Teresa. And we're going to talk about something that nobody talks about really, and we're going to talk about it. And that is, Mother Teresa was not what she appeared to be. She started off well, but she wasn't what she appeared to be. Julian Assange didn't start off well. He was a fucking criminal, and they got him out of the fucking criminal system.
He's part of a cult. He came from a cult.
That was when he was a child. I'm talking about when he was an adult.
Yes.
And they got him out of the criminal justice system in Australia because he'd been busted for doing some stuff and hacking and shit like that. So they said, we got an option for you, buddy. And then he ends up going to starting up WikiLeaks, and as he said himself, the whole point of WikiLeaks was to go after China and to bring about a regime change in China, which is why WikiLeaks was promoted before they ever published a single fucking thing by not only Cass Sunstein, but also the Washington Post. They were getting press as a whistleblowing site
in mainstream media.
In mainstream media, and being promoted by Cass Sunstein before they ever published a single fucking thing. Also, before they ever published a single thing, John Young from Cryptome, which was an established at the time real whistleblower site, had already been approached by WikiLeaks to help and to take charge of it and use his good name to promote WikiLeaks, and it also denied them, and actually in an interview at one time said, it looked to me like with all their funding and with all the way they were doing it, this you can provide material to us and we won't even ask you your name, we'll just publish it with no questions asked. He said it sounded like a honeypot site, a CIA honeypot site. That was all before they've published the first thing.
Big money behind WikiLeaks.
There was big money behind WikiLeaks. And to be honest with you, part of that was the reaction to Abu Ghraib. And when images from Abu Ghraib came out and other things, and you had the vice president of the United States saying, we're going to have to walk on the dark side for a little while with this global war of terror we're going to be committing all across the globe, and torturing some folks, as Barack Obama said later, in his folksy kind of way with his sleeves rolled up. They knew they had to create something that, if there was a legitimate fucking source that came out and had some information that was relevant and important and would be damaging to them, they would only go to WikiLeaks and they would say, here you go, WikiLeaks. And of course, WikiLeaks would never publish it. It'd never see the light of day. And WikiLeaks would contact somebody with that person's information. So who knows how much, as all these people like Caitlin Johnstone and all these folks who run around going, WikiLeaks is God, Assange is God, he's a real journalist.
Well, it's almost...
You have no idea how much damage they have done. Because whatever was sent to them that they didn't, what was really damaging, never saw the light of fucking day. And I guarantee you, whoever sent it to him or gave it to him was taken on a short helicopter ride someplace. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, practically all of the alternative media, they promote Julian Assange
They don't know
and
who he
WikiLeaks.
is. Right.
But Caitlin Johnstone especially, her whole brand is about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And among the outlets, it's Consortium News, I've noticed. Their fundraisers are focused around their coverage of WikiLeaks.
Now, I believe that, if I remember correctly, the guy who ran Consortium News and made Consortium News was not a big, huge WikiLeaks and Assange fan. And in fact, when they came out, I don't think Glenn Greenwald was either, because he was really suspicious of the whole fucking thing with the guy getting the cables, and then there was another guy who was a hacker, and he was in the middle between Assange and this dude, and he really did some exposés and did some good work on it. I think it wasn't Max, it was Glenn Greenwald back when he was doing good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. And the middleman guy.
He's changed his tune.
Of course,
so he doesn't say that.
Yeah. The middleman guy was the one who was really focusing on, because everyone knew that the dude who was a low-level nobody certainly couldn't have got access to fucking State Department cables. So, the story of that
Manning,
has...
you mean?
Huh?
Was it Manning?
It was
or
Bradley Manning and then Chelsea Manning, right?
Yeah, Manning.
Yeah. Manning was just a nobody. Manning was a nobody. Yeah. But the guy who was outside, who was working Manning and was the connection between Manning and Assange, another hacker, he was the guy. But his name and his story just kind of disappeared, and that's what Glenn Greenwald harped on and focused a lot on back in the day when this story first was breaking. But it's not... Okay.
Yeah, but Julian Assange, like you were saying, he stated it right from the start. Yeah. Russia and China are our top targets, not the U.S.
Right.
Whoops. Sorry, I dropped my bag.
I'll get it. You got it?
I got it. Sorry.
We had to sit this close together because of the camera. And because my studio sucks. Anyway, so let's move on from that to, let's just define what WikiLeaks really is. And we've already discussed that it's a honeypot. Let's just also briefly make sure that people understand in terms of like the leaks that she brought that were just mentioned with 2009 and the whole oh my God, the Sisters of Charity are trying to kill me, says WikiLeaks from a State Department cable. Understand this.
Yeah.
The State Department is just this massive construct of people working here and abroad, doing their best to please the people above them in the ladder so that they can move up the ladder. So WikiLeaks got these State Department cables, which basically will just make shit the fuck up sometimes. Sometimes it's a theory. Sometimes it's so-and-so said hearsay bullshit from like Curveball or Screwball, the guy from Iraq who said there's weapons of mass destruction. It's that kind of information that's passed up the fucking line. Yeah. And when they took all the State Department cables and, oh my God, here you go, it's massive. They're all true. You'd have to be a fool to think you get a whole bunch of cables from the State Department and think 90% or 10% of them are true.
Yeah, well, they all have to fall in line with official narrative or whatever.
Right. Especially in a state where they want a regime change. Yeah. Then they'll toss all kinds of crazy bullshit, batshit crazy stuff out there up the line.
At best, you'll get disinformation. People, Tiananmen Square. So there's this famous cable that's been published in mainstream and saying, oh, well, there was no massacre at Tiananmen Square. So it's from this embassy, U.S. embassy in Beijing, and it's recounting what an Italian diplomat had seen. So it's sort of, people cite that all the time. Does the cable say anything about what Tiananmen Square was? That it was a CIA and MI6 operation? No, it says nothing about that. Right. Nothing at all. Right. So it's more of a conventional narrative. It simply states there was no massacre at Tiananmen Square.
Another perfect example of what WikiLeaks really is and how it was made. Aside from going for John Young, from Cryptome, who would have given them instant credibility, aside from being promoted by people like Cass Sunstein, who ended up being Obama's regulatory czar, and mainstream media before they ever published a single fucking thing, not one thing. They were promoting it. It's a honeypot. But the best example I can give you, and I've said this a billion times, was a collateral murder video. The collateral murder video is not what you're told it is. There are plenty of videos of torturing people to death. There are plenty of, I'll give you an example of things that would be great if WikiLeaks had released them. The ones that Gina Haspel destroyed of us getting the confessions out of the two people involved with 9/11. When she got rid of and destroyed the videos that the Senate and the Investigation Committee and the September 11th Committee wanted to see, Gina Haspel gave the order to destroy them. We'll talk about Gina, interestingly enough, in a few minutes. However, what you're looking at is basically Overwatch protecting a small group of our soldiers moving their way through a town, a small village, where they knew that there had been activity, people shooting up American soldiers. And in fact, they had just left an area where they were shot and attacked. So the Overwatch is watching. They see this group of guys. There's no markings for press. And a couple of them carrying AK-47s like the press would do back then. They'd hire someone, security, to come with them. One of the guys has this massive telescopic lens. And from the Overwatch position, it looks a lot like a rocket launcher. And the last picture on that roll of film that photographer took was of our Humvee and our guys walking up the street. They were pointing it right at them. So you hear in the video them saying, please give us a fucking authorization, give us an authorization, give us the they're going to destroy the fucking Humvee and kill our fucking soldiers. They get the authorization and they tear them up. And they're laughing about it. So it looks bad. Oh my God, they're killing civilians and press, and they're laughing about it. That they weren't killing civilians and press. They were doing exactly what Overwatch was supposed to do. They're supposed to take people out that our guys can't fucking see when they point something that looks like a goddamn rocket launcher at the fucking Humvee that's carrying, by the way, a couple of injured fucking soldiers. That's why they were fucking so gleeful about it. Then what do you see later? Then you see them fucking realize they got the wrong fucking guys and grab kids and carry the kids and try to get the kids. And they saved the 2 kids' lives. But it was never what you thought it was. But it was, if it bleeds, it leads. It got a whole bunch of attention. And everyone went, oh my God. Mm-hmm. Of course, we watch it with hindsight. We know who those people are on the ground. But those guys in fucking Overwatch, all they know is in a few seconds that guy's going to pull the trigger and we're going to watch our fellow boys in blue die right in front of us. Give us the fucking authorization. So when they got it, they did what they were supposed to do. But see, that's how fucking slick WikiLeaks is. They wanted something big to catch everyone's attention. Mm-hmm. But they didn't actually want to show the U.S. committing a war crime. Mm-hmm. That's why it's fucking slick. So everything that they do, keep in mind, everything that they've released, everything that they do is always with that in mind. It's either bullshit State Department cables, or it's carefully crafted to be something that you want it to be and want to see in it, but it isn't necessarily when you think about it and step back and say, oh, wait a minute, you know, that's right. If my husband or my father or my brother or my friend was in that group of soldiers, they didn't ask to be there, they were sent there. Walking down the street and some dude was pointing something like that at him, I would want that dude to pull the trigger. Right or wrong, that's what it was. Once you understand that and you get a grip on that, then you understand what WikiLeaks has always been about. What it was started to be about was regime change China, because that's why you have all those Chinese fucking dissidents and Chinese activists who built WikiLeaks.
Tiananmen Square, yeah.
They're the ones who actually worked with Julian Assange and built WikiLeaks. Okay, so we are with that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
WikiLeaks is sort of controlled opposition, managed resistance is what my husband calls it.
Well, that's why he was able to father 2 kids while he was being tortured.
I know, in the embassy.
In the embassy.
It's like, yeah.
And they told you in one of these fucking interviews, I mean, we had a plan where we would take him and put him in this embassy car down in the garage with the dark windows and take him out if we had to. They did that every fucking day. The only days they brought him that he was there was when he had made a plan to meet with somebody, and so they were going to spy on the dude who came in. They made him leave all their electronics in this fucking anteroom. They brought them in, they sat them down, and they waited for old Julian Assange. Wow. They were going through the electronics. Excuse me. They were getting all the information on his network or their network, everything they needed to know. Maybe even putting stuff on it to spy on them, to track them. And then in comes Julian Assange, and he talks to him for a little bit and does the whole Julian Assange, I am fucking Jesus act routine. And the guy goes off. And that information goes straight from that Spanish fucking contractor who was in charge of doing this to the CIA. He's always been, just like John Young said at the beginning, he's always been a fucking asset. And he's still an asset now. Let's talk about how he's being used in this story. So, here's the deal. They claim that what? And one of these things you said that claims that, why are they being kicked out?
Well, the story was that they were plotting to, or Daniel Ortega thought that they were plotting to assassinate him. And so he's crazy.
He's crazy and they're kicked out. So they bring
up this. That was a police chief in Nicaragua, a sellout. Or I think it had been a chief who was in there when the Nicaraguans got back into power. I think that was the thing.
Right. So he was supposedly Sandinista?
It was a woman.
She was
so the cable was based on the U.S. ambassador's conversation with her.
And that's all the evidence they need.
I don't know that she was a Sandinista, but she had been the police chief when they came back into power. I think. I don't know her whole story, but anyway.
Well, now here's the funny thing. As ridiculous as that is, bringing this shit up now and saying they were kicked out because of this, he said this harbored this thing against them for all these years. Turns out that really isn't why they kicked him out. However, However, that might just very well be. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the real reason why, according to, where was it? Which one was it? I highlighted it someplace. And we've got way too many
I know you've got a lot of things
up here. Which one was it?
That you'd highlighted. It wasn't the CGTN, was it? No.
One of these.
You've highlighted a number of things.
I know.
So
there it is.
Is that the one? Okay.
Here's the deal. This is from
CGTN. Chinese.
And they make it very clear. The same thing that happened with the other 200, 400, 800 NGOs. This one says 200. A government department that oversees NGOs in Nicaragua said the nuns' order did not meet its obligation to declare the provenance of its funds. Very simple. Where does your money come from? Yeah. And another one, that aspect of this is they wanted a number of these organizations, when they did declare the provenance of their funds, to register as foreign agents.
Foreign agents, yes.
Right. We talked about that before. In this case, we're talking about 200 as of recently. There have been as many as 800 claimed in the last 2 years. Up to 800. There's only 18 of the nuns who were of the 3,000 Sisters of Charity across the world. Again, this one's called
so there's two different names
of Charity. Right, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, the dog's barking, the cat's going, the phone's going off, it's going crazy. Okay, so here's another one that talks about a sweeping purge of civil society. And again, they're going to say in this one, here's 400. Here's a 400 number. So the number's kind of weird. Goes back and forth. But again, they're talking about the reason being they're not fucking filling out and telling you exactly where all the money's coming from, which is important. And they're saying they refuse to sign up as a foreign agent. So we've got away from that whole idea that he was kicking them out because he's crazy and he thinks 18 nuns, somehow these people here are going to overthrow his country. After looking at it, and once I took some time to think about it and to do some research, I think these 18 nuns wanted to overthrow his country.
Yeah, I think they did. Because religion is used all the time in regime change operations. All the time. Catholic Church.
I want Aunt BB to read this whole thing here. Can you read it in blue?
Yes.
Okay, I want you to read this for us.
The statement from the nuns.
That's from the nuns.
The government's decision took us by surprise. We were forced to leave our homes immediately. We never participated in political activism of any sort, and we remember that President Ortega had the opportunity to meet Mother Teresa. Our concern has been always to serve the poor. Admittedly, the country is experiencing hardships, especially the church, which is persecuted. There is no freedom. Also, the economy is in dire straits with mounting unemployment.
Okay.
There is no freedom.
Awesome. So, in case you guys didn't pick up the key parts there, we have never participated in political activism of any sort. There's no freedom.
Yeah,
We've never done this at all in any sort of way.
That's not biased.
There is no freedom.
There's no freedom.
Also of interest, now here's something else we should look at very carefully. Nobody else that I have found has claimed that they have been kicked out. There are NGOs who were kicked out of India to the tune of about 6,000 of them.
You saw another figure up to 20,000 or something.
20,000.
Yeah.
This one says 20,000.
Yeah.
One of these says 20,000. That's 2016, but here we are the last 6 to 8 weeks. In September of 2021, there's a bunch being kicked out in India. Why is the government going after NGOs? And that's New India Express. One of the organizations that was kicked out were these girls, these ladies.
These girls.
They were kicked out in December of 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know they got it reversed by January of 2022? Do you know how they did it? PR campaign. Now, I I want you to keep those words in mind. PR campaign, that phrase in mind. Look at what you're seeing here. Somehow or another, the Sisters of Charity, there were numbers of these opposition newspapers and TV TV stations there to record the Sisters of Charity making the Baton Death March for about what appears to be a block. Because they're not really sweaty, you're dirty, they've still got a full bottle of water. This one's carrying appears to be more water. Apparently they're also sisters of poverty because they've apparently got no fucking luggage with them. No, they're just walking in their sandals on a cool day, about a block and a half to the processing area, where they go through the processing area to go from Nicaragua to Costa Rica.
Border control, yeah.
Right. It is my contention that perhaps they just then turned around and went right back to the fucking nunnery. Yeah. Get thee to the nunnery. So what are they doing? They're clearly not being escorted by anybody out the country. I don't see anywhere else any of the other NGOs forced to leave the country.
No.
Many of the NGOs have been shut down, and we have to admit that at least 200 in the last maybe 9 months, them being one. But nobody else that I could see was forced to leave the country. And from the looks of this, unless they have taken a vow of absolute poverty, except for their clothing on their backs and water jugs for hydration, my guess is they staged that.
Yeah. I think they did go to Costa Rica, but that doesn't mean anything.
They turned around and came back.
Yeah, they could come back.
Why would they do that? That's a PR campaign. They want people to think exactly what she just said. What did she say? What did Aunt Bibi read? The country is experiencing hardships, especially the church, which is being persecuted. And why are they doing that in Nicaragua? What is the average education level of the average Sandinista supporters in Nicaragua? And what is their religious affiliation? So, if you can try to drive a wedge between Ortega and the Sandinistas and the current government and their base of support, one good wedge to drive between them is religion.
Well, also they could put the external pressure on the Ortega government because they have been criticized before, supposedly, suppressing religion when they're not.
So they have. When we saw that a minute ago, there's a number. One of these fucking links. We got too many links now, but one of these links was talking about the different religious figures who have been told to leave. Remember that? You were reading that. I forget the name of it.
Oh, the
Monsignors.
Oh,
being asked to leave.
Yeah.
Right. So you're right. They have had a history of that.
Yeah. So I know that the Ortega government, they try to show no, we're not suppressing religion.
Right.
And so they do try to embarrass these governments, and the governments do try to show no, we're not suppressing religion. They might have issues with certain figures like bishops and monsignors that are directing attempted coups.
Right. Now let's be fair. There's a history in Latin America, and there's a history in Central America and South America on both sides. One archbishop was killed in the United States, standing up for people in a country that they were trying to regime change. He was assassinated on the steps, I believe, of the Capitol or somewhere near it. And he's a huge figure now. I wish I could remember his name. But Romero, Archbishop.
Yeah, Archbishop.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He was it works both ways.
Yeah.
Then there's another one who was in that country that they just made a film about 4 or 5 years ago, running a stadium where he was taking up the fucking leftists and the socialists and torturing them and running a torture site and a disappearance site for the CIA. And of course we had a Pope who was a Nazi supporter back in the day when that was all happening in his country. So I think that was Argentina, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a history of the church getting involved in these things. So
the institution. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So when you have power like that, when you have money like that, and you have influence over a lot of people, and you can push your agenda from the pulpit, literally from the pulpit, you're going to be approached by certain people. Now, when I say that so that we can bring up the last aspect of this thing that needs to be talked about, and that is Gina Haspel, State Department, Central Intelligence Agency, and someone doing something very similar to what I described before, what we described before with Julian Assange, and that him being a figure in a almost a religious figure. Yes. Now Assange is, and running around and people coming to meet him or him meeting them, and not necessarily having their best interests at heart. And of course, the person I'm talking about when I say all that is one Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa has a long fucking history of being a Cold War CIA agent. And we'll go through more of that in a second. When Bibi wanted to talk to me mentioned this story to me, and I started looking into it. First thing I told her was, you can find on Global Research, people had done a lot of work talking about her history of being an asset of Cold War clandestine services. Right. That, of course, is Mother Teresa with then Vice President George H.W. Bush, a guy who, by the way, was right there when JFK was shot and killed.
Yeah. So it says she regularly visited the White House.
She did.
She was connected.
She was a good article to start with this. We'll get to these are not fringe sources we have here. This is the Daily Star, which is probably the most fringe. This is Foreign Policy magazine. There's no question about her dark side. This is the Washington Post, written by Christopher Hitchens, which we will talk about more in a second. Fascinating, and he delves very deeply into this in an article called "The Company."
This is based on his book about Mother Teresa,
right,
which has a nice title.
Right. The one I want to start with, of course, is this one.
Yeah, that's the thing you first told me about that you found that.
It starts off with this. This is from News 18, and this came out back when Gina Haspel was nominated to be director of the CIA, and they wanted to make her seem like she was all wonderful and great, and so what they did was they released some information about her connections with Mother Teresa to give Gina Haspel credibility by associating her name with Mother Teresa. What they did was they poisoned the name of Mother Teresa in the process.
Yes.
According to this, New York, U.S. President Donald Trump's nominee to head the Central Intelligence Agency, Gina Haspel, helped Mother Teresa get food into a region facing shortages. According to them, while Haspel was on her first overseas assignment in the 80s, this is going to be the early 80s, Teresa approached her and said, we sought to speak with President Reagan about wheat shortages in a country that remains classified, according to the Wall Street Journal story circulated by the White House. Remember, they're the ones who put this out because they wanted to bolster the image of Gina Haspel. The Journal reported that according to people familiar with Haspel's career, she was on a weekend duty when Teresa contacted her, and Haspel invited her in, and the State Department arranged the phone call, leading Mother Teresa to invite Miss Haspel to a local orphanage. While the country where it happened remains classified, it may have been Sudan, or what is now South Sudan. Going by other stories in the Italian news, which do not mention Haspel, but recount Reagan sending aid to that country due to Teresa's intervention. This is a fascinating story, and this is a fascinating story. It mentions in here the fucking Haspel destroying the videos of the terror, of the waterboarding and torture of the two people who, of course, are the basis of the CIA's version of what happened on September 11th. It tells an interesting story, and that is, at a time, according to them, at a time when she was big. Mother Teresa was already big. But she, for some reason, went to the CIA to figure out how to get wheat into a country, because she really cared about getting wheat into a country. So according to them, she approached Haspel. But you know more about what did you call them? You have intelligence people and you have...
Oh, and the CIA?
Yeah.
So there's basically two sides of the CIA. The research and then the covert, which...
And the covert are the ones who were actually in the countries, and sometimes the researchers can be in the countries as well, but they stay at the desk jockeys, right?
Yeah.
And the ones who are out in places trying to get regime change going.
Yeah, it's operations as well.
That's operations.
Yeah.
And that's what Haspel was. She was operations.
Yes.
So you mean to tell me that we're supposed to believe that Mother Teresa took a random CIA operations officer and said, "Can you help me get wheat into this country?"
I think so.
No.
Yeah, so someone like Gina Haspel her mission would be to go out and recruit people, contact people who could be useful for to the CIA.
Now, for the younger viewers out there who aren't, I covered this when it was, did I cover this when it was happening? South Sudan? No, but I've written about South Sudan before and how it was transitioned. How Clinton got to create a country. He got to create Kosovo.
Right.
There's a big glowing statue of fucking Bill Clinton grabbing someone by the ass and holding a document. The document was the paperwork to make their fucking IMF constitution. But one thing that presidents like to do is make their own countries. And what happened in South Sudan was basically that. They couldn't regime change completely Sudan. They weren't as successful as they wanted to be, so they had to bust off a piece. And after she got into South Sudan, which was at the time Sudan, and she was bringing in people and opposition people and building the opposition from her fucking orphanage or whatever her fucking area was, her charity was at the time. Eventually, when they decided to bust off part of Sudan and call it South Sudan, the city where her organization became the capital. So that tells you a lot.
Yeah.
About how effective she was. She was so effective that then they brought her in to work on Russia.
Yes.
After Gorbachev took over.
So this is all in the 80s.
Right. This is now we're talking about the late 80s.
Yeah.
And where was that article? Oh my God, there's so many. There's so many. Here it is.
Oh,
yeah. Right. And here's her with Reagan.
Yeah.
And of course, now explain to us why this is interesting.
Well,
how do you pronounce her name?
Raisa. That's Mikhail Gorbachev's wife, Raisa.
Right.
So.
Well, she brings in. She wants to get closer to Mother Teresa because Mother Teresa is an image, and of course they're making a new fucking Russia, so they only want to make sure, and they're happy with the Catholic Church in Russia and all that. So she brings in Mother Teresa. But what was Mother Teresa doing? Mother Teresa was working against their wishes, against their will, with people like
so the late 80s
Reagan
is when
right.
Yeah, the West was infiltrating the Soviet bloc.
Right.
And I argue that Gorbachev was complicit in all this.
He was complicit in a lot. I don't think he was complicit in all of it. If he was complicit in all of it, they never would have needed Yeltsin. They never would have brought in Boris.
I'm just saying.
They wouldn't brought in Boris. They had to get rid of him.
Perestroika was the restructuring, neoliberal restructuring.
Well,
market economy kind of.
Yeah, but again,
it's kind of like what they were doing in China at the time.
Right. The
market.
Yeah, but he didn't want to go far enough. Again.
I'm just saying they just and then Glasnost was openness, democracy, a form of democracy they were kind of introducing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now this article,
it's weird that because Russia or Soviet was not a Catholic country, so they bring in Mother Teresa from the Catholic Church.
There were still some Catholics there, and there were a lot of poverty. There were people in poverty.
Orthodox.
And there were still people in poverty.
Yeah, there was Orthodox.
According to the theory, Mother Teresa was working for U.S. intelligence on her trip, using her influence to meet with USSR leaders and send covert messages back to officials in the United States. So she was a mole, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this started, of course, as Aunt Bibi just told you, in the communist state in 1989, which, by the way, was also the same year they did what? in China?
Well, yeah, 1989 is a very important year because that was the year of the Tiananmen Square PSYOP, the CIA and MI6, and that WikiLeaks cable from the embassy. The embassy was directing that whole. So, in 1989 is when the Berlin Wall came down. So the Soviet bloc. There were basically color revolutions in all of those Soviet bloc countries in Eastern Europe.
Right.
And eventually, in 1991, the USSR dissolved.
Right. So here's my point. You're looking at, in this case, her involvement with USSR, 1989, in the lead up to this very important year, obviously, but also in the lead up to the collapse and the wall coming down, the collapse of the USSR. So you have that in the lead up to that, and then you go back to what we just talked about in terms of Sudan, and she was brought into Sudan. The next thing you know, maybe a year later, they can't fucking regime change Sudan, so they bust off a piece of it, and of course where her fucking mission is just happens to be located right in what becomes the capital of South Sudan, where they put a criminal in charge, just like Clinton put a criminal in charge of Kosovo. They put a criminal and a gang leader, a war criminal, in charge of that country. And of course they put fucking Yeltsin in charge of this country, but it's always right before a country collapses or makes some kind of neoliberal transition. Right?
Yeah, and you were pointing out I think you had said she was trying to put a wedge between India.
Right, it's in this article right here.
Right. Yeah.
During the Cold War, India had started to build strong strategic military economic ties with the USSR, with Prime Minister Nehru's policy of neutrality towards the former bloc, concern for security chiefs in the U.S., but Jesse McClintock said his theory was Mother Teresa's role as a spy, having her as an influence working for the people, stopped India from becoming a stronghold for Russia during the Cold War.
Well, I do remember during the Cold War, India did kind of lean towards the Soviet Union. Right. They had that leaning.
Oddly enough, they seem to be going right back in that direction. Let's now jump into this. We've covered a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot to this whole situation.
Let's talk about a little more about them. They are not as refuted. I'm not as presented. There have been a number of cases where they have been asked to leave for different reasons. In this case, and this is from Indian Express, and this is 2022. This dates back to 2018. Turns out they were trafficking orphans. A couple of them were busted trafficking orphans. And that's a take that people have, and I remember reading about that in, again, on Global Research way back when, one of the things I was telling you about. And it was a hell of a lot more than just three kids and two fucking nuns, however it was. But the Sisters of Charity confess in this case to three children because they caught them dead to rights. And of course, at that point, I think they were also asked to leave, or that group was asked to leave. But let's go real quick to their current website. This is something BB found, and we're trying to find the website. Where is it?
It's right Home Sisters. Home Sisters. That's the one. That's their website. Yeah.
And BB noticed something that I hadn't noticed, and I had to look at it for a minute. So I'm going to give you a chance to look at it and see if you see it. I'm sure you will. It's not hard. That whole blue and red and that yellow thing going on.
It looks green.
It does have. It could be my fucked up screen. It could be my fucked up screen. Read our statement on the Ukraine tragedy. Tragedy. Let's read the statement of the Sisters of Charity.
This says it all.
So what does it say?
Well, I like the John Paul II quote.
Okay, there you go. There are few in the Western world who are not gravely disturbed by the recent invasion into Ukraine by Russian troops initiated by Vladimir Putin of Russia, apparently without provocation. Apparently without provocation. Apparently they don't give a shit about the 14,000 fucking Ukrainians that the Ukrainian military killed because they happen to speak a different language, a language that's been in that fucking country for a lot longer than any of those motherfucking Nazis have been. So, apparently, for that, the act of aggression is indicative of frightful presence of evil.
There's no bias in this statement.
No bias whatsoever. Go back to their fucking statement before politically biased. No
political activism.
No
we
political
don't do
activism.
That. But there's no freedom.
Except for the front of our thing. We're all slaves. Slaves to the evil socialists. A frightful presence of evil in the world, an evil that has its roots in original sin. What the fuck are these crazy bitches talking about? And is manifest in the present day struggle against all that is good and holy. The Nazis are good and holy. And Putin is fucking, what? An apple? A snake? What the fuck are these crazy bitches talking about? I thought the most Florida thing I ever saw was fucking the other day. This is the most Florida fucking thing I've ever seen. What the fuck is this? Did you write this? You wrote this on there. You hacked their website and put this on there, didn't you? This is fucking crazy. The desire for power and self-aggrandizement have all too often resulted in the incomprehensible realities of war, the worst of human aggression, leaving in its wake only terror, brokenness, death, and grief. No one wins in war. No one. No one. They're so holy. I like how they mention power, the desire for power and self-aggrandizement. The desire for power and self-aggrandizement.
But look later in the next paragraph.
What? Just read it if you see what you're looking for.
Those who protest in Russia the unjust invasion, many of whom have been arrested and may likely disappear.
Oh my God. It may likely disappear by taking a short helicopter ride into the Atlantic. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. The desire for power and self-aggrandizement. What does that make me think of? The desire for power and self-aggrandizement. The desire for power and self-aggrandizement. Gee. So I wonder who's actually guilty of that.
But that statement is incredible.
That statement is incredible. And let's just finally leave us with this. And who better to leave us with than Christopher Hitchens? The writing of Christopher Hitchens, who, by the way, did not like this woman.
No.
Would you like to read some of this?
What do you want me to read?
Well, we're going to read a bit of it. I think most of it is worth addressing.
Yeah, this is from his book. This is based on Christopher Hitchens'
right,
book.
But it's posted by the Washington Post back before the Washington Post was completely fucking bought and paid for. Right, 1995. You want me to do it, or you want to do it?
Well, where do you want to?
Just wherever you want. How about with what?
Yeah. What, for example, was Mother Teresa doing in Port-au-Prince in January 1981? Mingling with the Haitian oligarchy, a class justly renowned for its greed and pitiless use of force to keep the poor and the dispossessed in their place. 60 Minutes showed film footage of her on that occasion singing the praises of Michelle Duvalier, the wife of Haitian dictator Jean-Claude Baby Doc Duvalier. Mother Teresa said that while she had met kings and presidents aplenty in her time, she had never seen the poor people being so familiar with their head of state as they were with her. It was a beautiful lesson for me. Thereafter, Mother Teresa was awarded the Haitian Legion d'Honneur. Legion of Honor.
She was praising the wife of Baby Doc Duvalier.
Yeah.
Man, how many times have you heard me or seen me or read what I write bring up the Tonton Macoute?
A lot.
How many times?
It's very
as the absolute fucking ultimate in terms of a neoliberal authoritarian rule by fucking horror.
By terror, yeah.
Rule by terror.
Yeah,
the Tonton Macoute was not only going to fucking torture you, but they were going to fucking torture you and steal your soul and keep it in a goddamn vase.
Yeah.
That's what they actually believed. They believed they had fucking powers, and they had powers from voodoo priests. It was the ultimate fucking nightmare of a country to live in. And it was because we supported them, because we gave them the power to do so. And they treated their fucking people like worse than slaves. They treated their people like the enemy. And here is Mother Teresa honoring them. And it was on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Would you like to continue?
Well, no protest against the use of this footage is known to have been registered by Mother Teresa between the time of the award and the time in 1986 when the Haitian people became so familiar with Jean-Claude and Michel that the couple had barely enough time to stuff their luggage with the contents of the national treasury before fleeing forever to a villa in France. And what are we to make of the photograph in which Mother Teresa appears in friendly propinquity with a man known as John Roger?
It is Christopher Hitchens, so he's going to throw shit right there.
Propinquity.
He had to look that one up himself, trust me.
Is the leader of the cult known as MSIA, Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness, pronounced Messiah. John Roger is a charlatan of Chaucerian proportions. He is probably best known to the public for his lucrative role of spiritual advisor to Ariana Stasinopoulos Huffington, whose husband Michael Huffington spent $42 million of his own inherited money on an unsuccessful bid for a Senate seat in California. Messiah has been described by the Cult Awareness Network as highly dangerous.
Highly dangerous. So she was also hooked up with this cult leader, who, by the way, he'll tell you in a second, saw himself as on the same level as, or even higher than Jesus Christ. Yeah, I read. John Roger, who it should be noted has repeatedly claimed to be and have a spiritual consciousness that is superior to that of Jesus Christ. Such a claim is hard to adjudicate. One might think, all the same, that it would be blasphemous to the simple outlook of Mother Teresa, yet there is, in a photo published in the expose of John Roger's operation, keeping him company and lending him the luster of her name and image. Turns out this photograph records a momentous occasion of Mother Teresa's acceptance of a check for $10,000. It came in the form of an integrity award bestowed by John Rogers, Jesus himself, a man who realized his own divinity in the aftermath of a vision-inspiring kidney operation, probably because he was drinking too much. No doubt Mother Teresa's admirers will have their defense close at hand. The heroine is too innocent to detect dishonesty in others, and $10,000 is for good works, is $10,000 for good works. So what is more natural than that she should quit Calcutta once more, journey to Tinseltown, and share her aura with a guru claiming to outrank the Redeemer himself? But at what point, her apologists might want to permit themselves this little tincture of skepticism, does such association cease to be coincidental? And this is where it gets really interesting. Consider Mother Teresa's expenditure of energy and mercy on behalf of a wicked, greedy man named Charles Keating.
Yeah.
Now again, this, you might ask, what has this got to do with 18 people being asked to leave the country? First of all, I don't think they were ever asked to leave the country. Nobody else was, but I don't think they were asked to leave the country. And rather than read this whole thing for you, I'll post a link and you can see it yourself. I'll just give you a breakdown. Don't know who Charles Keating Charles Keating was. He was busted in the savings and loan scandal. He stole $252 million from his own clients. Stole their fucking life savings and was busted for it. He got 10 years, the max in California at the time that you could get. While Judge Ito, believe it or not, the same Lance Ito who presided over O.J. Simpson, while he was sitting on that trial and he was being tried for that, he was found guilty and they were thinking about how much time to give him. Mother Teresa contacted Judge Lance Ito, and asked him to consider the fact that he was very good to the poor people of the world, and gave her $1 million to help the poor people. Turns out that $1 million is part of the $252 million that was stolen from people. So a reporter who Christopher Hitchens got in touch with explained all of this to Christopher Hitchens. He also wrote her a letter telling her, what do you think God would do? What would Jesus do in this case if Jesus found out there was $1 million donated to help the poor by this guy who had stolen it from some people were working class poor themselves. One guy he gives an example of was a carpenter who has been a carpenter his whole life, didn't even speak fucking English. His entire life savings was gone, and he had to keep working until he was 80 or some shit because this guy stole his fucking money. The guy who you were asking Judge Ito to be lenient with because he's so good to the fucking poor. By the way, the writer asked the glorious Mother Teresa to give the $1 million back, and maybe it would help some of the people he had ripped off. And what did Mother Teresa do? She fucking ignored him. So, and of course, that's the story with that right there. I tell you this story, and we tell you this story, because we want you to understand that when you see something like this, in my opinion, and I think this is pretty easy at this point to understand, this was staged. Because clearly they don't look like they're leaving a country for the rest of their lives. They look like they're just carrying enough water for the fucking trip there and back. This isn't the Baton Death March.
Yeah, they're going to try to get back in. This is PR campaign.
This is a PR campaign to put pressure on, as they told you, the poor people in the country, because they're oppressed, their religion, because that's what fucking. But they don't get political. But they're being oppressed religiously in the country. If you asked me, looking at this now and taking a little more time to look at it, this reminded me of something that I'd seen several years back on BB. And what would that be?
This isn't Pussy Riot, is it?
This is Pussy Riot. They are. It is my opinion, my learned opinion, that these are the
Catholic Church version of Pussy Riot.
This is a version of Pussy Riot. These ladies have just decided that this organization has decided they will use whatever fucking means they can, and that includes a photo op of 18 nuns walking to the border. The Get Thee to a Nunnery Baton Death March, where they're not carrying any luggage or anything, just plenty of water for hydration, in order to sway public opinion.
Yeah, it is.
To get them to.
They can put pressure inside and outside the country.
Right.
To get them to reverse this decision on the Sisters of Charity.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that back in the day Hillary Clinton and the State Department were doing in Russia, trying to put pressure on the Russian government to keep Putin from running for office again, which they knew he was going to win. It's like, this is a thing that's done quite often too. In the case with, and you can look at the situation in Nicaragua and say, well, Scott, that's kind of weird because it's a family affair and all this stuff. And then you can say, Scott, what about the last election? He ran unopposed. Well, that's true. That's true. However, you have to wonder about, you have to understand why they do that. If you were running for office against me and you wanted to get rid of me, or at least besmirch my upcoming new term in office, and you knew you were going to get fucking crushed, and you knew you were going to get crushed, and that was going to look bad because outside observers would say it's not a fucking rigged election. So what's the best way you can win? Is to not play.
Yeah, no, they do that in Venezuela. They've done that in Venezuela,
That's why he ran unopposed.
Yeah.
Because they said we're going to lose. It's the same thing that happened with the guy who called himself fucking president of Venezuela.
Juan Guaido.
Yeah. They said you're going to lose, so you best just don't run, don't oppose it. Then you can say, oh, he ran unopposed. He wouldn't let anybody else to fucking. But of course, they didn't stop anybody from fucking running.
No, there were a number of figures who were arrested for their involvement in the violent coup attempt in 2018.
Right.
So there was part of that. Yeah.
But it was part of that. But also, he wasn't done. He was going to win by a landslide.
Yeah.
He was going to win by a landslide, which is why they had the coup in the first place, because they knew he was going to win by a landslide. So the fact that you had a couple of these people arrested, you could still have run somebody else.
They could.
And I'm sure somebody in the opposition said, you know what, I'll do it. And they said, we're better off doing what Bibi did with Scott when she ran against Scott, and that is, we can say we weren't allowed to. Yeah. He arrested too many people, and oh my God, he's illegitimate because he ran unopposed. He ran unopposed because they were going to crush anybody, and if he did crush them when they did show up and they said, okay, we'll run against you, you're going to look at it and go, he won 70% of the fucking vote that came out there, and you won shack shit. So obviously the people would rather have him. Yeah. This way they can say he was unopposed, so you have no idea how many people would have voted for us. That's the whole fucking thing. So I believe that that's the kind of thing that was happening in Russia back in the day with the Clintons and with fucking Pussy Riot, and here we have this. They had a problem with so many fucking NGOs being shut down. I thought that was a lot of NGOs for a country the size of fucking Nicaragua. However, I did find that I think about 6,000 NGOs were shut down in India. So apparently someone's got a shit ton of fucking money.
There is big money in NGOs.
Right, to regime change countries.
I realize that. You always, whenever I see the term NGO, I'm going, okay, where's this money coming from and what's the purpose of it? Because they're almost in every case to overthrow governments that are not business friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
Back during the ISIS days, they had NGOs in Turkey. And NGOs in Turkey were CIA backed and worked backed by various generals, some generals in Turkey who wanted to help with regime change. But because the NGOs were bringing fucking supplies over for fucking ISIS, they were saying that Turkey was supplying ISIS. They had pictures of a ambulance. It was an NGO that was, but they said because they're Turkish-based NGOs, the whole story then was it's fucking evil Erdogan. Evil Erdogan is running ISIS, when in fact it was our NGOs. So they use them in all kinds of ways, all sorts of ways. Mm-hmm. So let me also say this. Given the fucking background of fucking Mother Teresa and the organization, shutting him down in his country is a good idea.
Yeah, it was legitimate.
It's legitimate.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, obviously their funding was questionable. They didn't want to, all they had to do was supply the financials to the government. They didn't want to do that, so.
And we don't know how much influence that Mother Teresa's organization had in, say, Sudan, to bust off half of the country for South Sudan, or Soviet Union, as it was leading into the collapse of the Soviet Union and
I call it the overthrow of the Soviet Union.
Overthrow of the Soviet Union.
Regime change.
But they were always on the ground. They were always fucking there, and they were always associated with people like, George Herbert Walker Bush and Ronald Reagan. Gina Haspel. And other folks, the State Department. So,
Mother Teresa was the CIA's favorite nun.
She was.
And who was the CIA's favorite pope?
That would be a guy by the name of Julian, who didn't take a vow of fucking celibacy because obviously while he was being tortured, he fathered 2 fucking kids.
So this all started with WikiLeaks bullshit about.
And now we've come full circle.
Yeah.
Back to WikiLeaks.
So this is why I get so disgusted with people who, promote WikiLeaks and Julian Assange.
Because it can be used. Yeah. If everyone runs around and says everything they've ever said was true.
True, I know.
Now you've got this fucking bullshit story about him trying to get rid of the nuns because he thinks the nuns are evil.
He's crazy and he thinks they're trying to kill him.
They're trying to kill him. But kind of, in a way, he's right because they do want to get rid of him. And usually when they get rid of somebody in Latin American, Central American countries, how do they do it? They take them for a short little helicopter ride someplace. So maybe he's right. Maybe they're right. By the way, one last thing I did catch, and they were pissed off because they also went and investigated and arrested 2 people, writers for La Prensa. What is it?
La Prensa.
La Prensa. Okay, yeah. And that's a paper that's in Nicaragua, but it's also
part of a network.
Part of a network.
Yeah.
A network of CIA linked propaganda things that push regime change in countries that are just a little bit too far to the left for our national interest's sake. So They also did that.
So yeah, the opposition press, the U.S. puppets in Nicaragua have these propaganda outlets.
And the whole network of it.
Yeah,
It's all, and the money comes from all over the place.
Yeah,
right. Apparently they got lots of fucking money for this shit.
So they will publish WikiLeaks. They just go through WikiLeaks, and there's all these State Department cables about Nicaragua and the Ortega government. They just pick out what's really makes Ortega look
They
really
did the
bad.
same thing. WikiLeaks, you can go back and find WikiLeaks leaks on Muammar Gaddafi before they overthrew him.
On the Iranian government, the Russian government, Putin. Yeah,
and of course Assad. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And of course China.
Number one target.
Yeah. So you have Julian Assange on one side pushing against China. You have Tucker Carlson on another side pushing against China. You have Beau ready to go attack anybody from China because he's a racist dog. I'm just kidding. He's not racist. Are you racist, Beau? Oh. So, there you have it. There's our breakdown. How long is this?
It's got to be
an hour and 10 minutes.
What do you?
An hour and 11 minutes. God damn, that's scary.
That's awesome.
That is scary.
I wanted to do it for an hour at least.
That is fucking
awesome.
Scary. How did I know that?
That's awesome.
An hour and 10 minutes is an hour and 11 minutes. You just jump right over that. It's amazing.
Because it's all about you.
It's always about me and how much time is just going away from me. How much little... I know exactly the moment when I die. And so everything I know, every fucking minute, how much closer to death I get.
Beau's having fun, though.
You and Beau are having fun.
Yeah, I know. He's fun. He's presenting his butt to me.
He's presenting. You are a troubled woman.
But
troubled.
He does like me, yeah.
He does like it.
I know.
So, what are you going to do? You're going to go down to Nicaragua, then you're going to come back up here, and hopefully you're going to have time to go up and see Greg.
Yeah.
And you're going to be here for 3 days. That gives us enough time to get some shrimp. And Marcia Lobotomy. Say hi to them. Say hi to Will.
Yeah.
And say hi to both of them for me. And we'll do another video maybe Saturday. We have time before. You're going to come over here and do laundry. Well, I do have a machine.
I know.
It's not just a rock and a creek in the back of my backyard.
Crick.
A creek. So you could do another one then.
I'm having fun with both. You've been pretty good.
He has been
good.
good.
The video, yeah.
He has been good.
But now he knows that it's the video is coming to a
It's
close.
all about
It's
him.
showtime for Beau.
It's all
I
about
think
Beau.
that's why he's doing this. Yeah, see?
I see you got Coach Mauve Pill back there too.
Yeah. See? Oh, look. There, that's a good picture of Beau there.
It's a good picture.
Yeah.
It's a good video. Yeah. So, for the, what are we going to do for the thumbnail? We're going to take a picture of these.
You said you wanted to put Pussy Riot's masked heads on the nuns.
This is the La Prensa fucking thing, by the way. And here's the La Prensa art. We talked about La Prensa being the paper that he supposedly arrested a couple of them. Current positions. La Prensa generally supports neoliberal economics and is largely aligned with the United States government. Wow. Really? No wonder.
It's right up front there.
And you're pissed off because he did what? He said, oh, you got to stop doing this. And they're trying to fucking cause a regime change in the country. Yep. Well, there you go with that. What else do we have that I didn't pull up? Well, there's the print that he was saying. This is the one that says they got busted.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Reporting about the nuns. 2
drivers for the independent paper La Prensa have been jailed and police raided the homes of 2 reporters. Yeah, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder why. Gee, I wonder why. This is not the image. See, you notice there's no luggage. I think they dropped him off maybe half a block from this, and they had the cameras all there to fucking film it as they walk in. That's the fucking border right there. And they walk him to the fucking border, and I don't believe they turned him around. That could be the bus right there. The bus has gone around the corner and waited for him right down there. This is completely staged.
So even if they left the country, this is a PR campaign.
It's obviously
they weren't kicked out.
Right.
They left, and so there's a PR campaign to
this
get.
This is so funny.
Yeah, I know. I love that
this
statement.
This is so funny.
That statement.
This act of aggression is indicative of frightful presence of evil in our world, an evil that has its roots in original sin.
No.
And is manifest in a present-day struggle against all that is good and holy, like our beautiful fucking Nazis in Ukraine. Holy shit, wow. White is black, black is white. This is from the Black Vault. Oh, we want to show you this, too. This guy was researching the files for the CIA and the NSA, and the NSA told them, no, you can't have them because they're top secret, classified top secret. This is the PDF popping up now, if it ever pops up. It's being a little slow.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
And this is from the Black Vault.
Oh, there it is.
And this is the letter from the National Security Agency saying, no, go fuck yourself.
2019.
These are classified as secret and top secret. And that was written by Stephen Thompson. So the information on her and her connection with the CIA and the NSA and the work that she was doing is considered, still to this day, secret and top secret. And of course, this is...
Oh, I love the title, the Christopher Hitchens title of his book.
The Missionary Position.
That's what I love. Mother Teresa in Theory and Practice. It's like a sex guide or something.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome. This is, of course, from Foreign Policy Magazine, talking about the dark side of Mother Teresa and the same stuff we've been talking about. More stuff. All these links will be down below.
Really?
This is all of these links.
That's good stuff you found when you were digging.
And there was one other image I wanted to fucking
I knew Mother Teresa, there was something shady about her.
Yeah, that's the one right there. That's the one right there. So I'm going to take for the thumbnail, I'm going to put Pussy Riot heads on all of them.
That's funny.
There you go. So I thank everybody for watching. I hope you got something out of this with Aunt BB and I. Who did this again?
That was Aria's
niece.
Niece. I
Niece.
think I can
Thank you very much again, Aria's niece and Aria.
her name. Sorry. Yes. Bo. Bo. He says, "Woo."
So you're not going to go back today, but you're going to go tomorrow back to Busch Gardens and have some fun with that?
Yeah, I'll try to go. Yeah, there's just a few things I wanted to do.
After you get your... This is going to be your first PCR test.
Yes,
Ooh.
to enter Nicaragua. Because I'm unvaccinated, I just have to get a PCR test.
Okay, I'm going to practice. You're going to practice a little bit. Let me take this and jam it up your nasal cavity. Hang on a second.
I forgot to ask them how they do it when I phoned.
Oh, you got a tiny little nose too. That's not going to be pleasant at all for you. Oh well. Let's hope it's not like a junkie in their hands like this. Hold on, hold still. The more you struggle, the more it's going to hurt.
Yeah, and you said...
And I said, said the rapist to the victim.
You're always endearing.
I am.
Such an endearing person.
I'm so good right at the moment. I can hit something funny, but then I forget to think about who the audience is.
Yeah.
Because like you said before, there's nobody but me. It's just me. It's always about me.
Yeah. But it's having fun.
All right, so we're going to go. It's only fucking 3 hours of your life. But this one's an important one to look at. It's an important one to understand.
Yeah, there's so much to this. Like, it started out just as Nicaraguan WikiLeaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a can of worms. You open that can of worms and you find a lot of
tomato. You peel that tomato.
That's
you peel
connected
that onion.
to the whole world.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
really.
Right.
Yeah.
And the more you know, the easier it is. The more you can smell these things, and the more quickly you can smell these things and realize something really stinks.
But people, please stop with the WikiLeaks bullshit.
Oh, Jesus
Julian
God.
Assange. God damn.
Oh, but Scott, what happened with fucking collateral murder video? You can't argue with that. Stop it.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter said, "Oh, he's my hero, Julian Assange." I go, "What the?" Someone who thinks he's anti-establishment.
Ronald Reagan was a hero to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so was Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And so was Mother Teresa.
Coach Red Pill.
And Coach Red Pill. I don't think Coach Red Pill's anybody's hero. Anybody says, no, that's not possible. Okay, we're gone. We're done.
Okay,
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott, for looking into that.
I enjoyed it.
And thank you for that. You know, I received that WikiLeaks, that article that started all this.
Yeah.
I thought, well, this is a video. I said right away, this is a video.
Yeah. We sat down to do this video yesterday, and I had a little bit of information, and she had different information. We were looking back and forth at each other.
And we weren't on the same wavelength. No. Well, because you found, but then it was good because you found more information.
Yes.
You even said it's good that we waited because you found, so it kind of cleared up a lot of things. Oh, that's good.
I will say this, that I didn't say, that I will say this that helped, that got us pissed off at each other yesterday, was that, you know, I said it was going to be one of three things. One was somebody on the inside was trying to deliberately undermine the Sandinista government. I said that it was probably, and this is my opinion, in my opinion, it certainly is now, that the sisters have staged this walk. No one told them to fucking leave. They just did it because it makes headlines, and it's terrible watching the fucking nuns on the last.
Well, they left because they were shut down anyway, so.
Yeah, but you can be shut down and still be there.
Yeah,
Plus, they didn't really shut them down. They're not going to kick fucking kids out into the streets. So it was just a stunt, and I said that was option number 2, and my belief was. But option number 3 was also, and this is also still applicable, the people in the fucking government who included them in the NGO list that they shut down, they should have understood that by doing that, they were going to open themselves up for a PR campaign like this. And then people like us have to sit here for an hour and a half
trying to figure out
and unpeel all the onion just so you understand what actually happened. But they could have saved us. Daniel Ortega and the Sandinistas could have saved us a lot of time by just leaving them off that fucking list. Even though they are,
I don't know.
They have been around for a while doing this kind of shit. So,
well, I wouldn't go that far, but anyway.
Yeah, well,
So
they're going to be back, just like they were back in fucking India.
We'll see.
It's hard to fucking unless more people.
Okay, well, we
share
gotta
this
get
video.
get the word out.
Get the word out.
Yeah, that they did the right thing to kick them out. They're trouble.
Right.
They're just pussy riot. Just a
Pussy
different
riot.
form of pussy riot.
They could have at least provided them a bus. Put them on a bus and send them over there.
Sisters of Charity have big money. That's what I say.
I wonder
There's big money behind
I wonder
sisters.
if they got lift rides over there. Y'all had to meet over there and different lift rides. Okay, so there you go with that. For all of you guys who are interested in what's happening in Nicaragua, that's part of what's happening in Nicaragua. You're going to find out soon enough. More stuff happening in Nicaragua. I'm sure we'll hear more when you come back.
Yeah, I'm going to learn a lot. I'm going to learn a lot.
Yeah. How's your Spanish?
It's always rusty because I don't, you know, it's kind of there. I get myself into trouble because my accent is kind of okay, so.
They think you speak and they speak faster. They talk faster.
It's not my, you know, French is my strongest language.
All right, you want to say goodbye to everybody in Spanish?
Hasta luego.
Good enough. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.